about him, and I don't know. Let me ask you, should I keep the Twitter going or not? Keep it going?
To what you guys are saying, I believe that he knows he was elected by the people in small town America who came together to elect him, and the people on the East and West Coast still can't figure it out, especially if you look at the way they reviewed his speech.
I was just going with the literal translation where he actually said, I was born in a small town. Listen, Donald Trump had a big day, and he started, at the end of that soundbite montage, we ran the part where he said, should I keep doing the Twitter? He felt last night that people said yes, and just 4 minutes ago, the brand new President of the United States tweeted this: a fantastic day and evening in Washington, D.C. Thank you to Fox News and so many other news outlets for the great reviews of the speech. What did you think about the speech? Email us, friends@foxnews.com. Did you think it was optimistic? Did you think it was a dark vision for America, as the New York Times, the Washington Post said? Let us know.
Well, thank you for tweeting about us.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
President.
wonderful, and giving us great interviews and lots to talk about over the last 2 years.
No kidding.
Yeah, and we still have a lot coming up over the next 3 hours. We're privileged to be with you on a Saturday right after the inaugural as the coverage continues here on Fox News. But first, let's lay out what happened yesterday.
Well, he's already working on his first official day as the President of the United States.
Kristen Fisher is live on the Saturday morning right there at the White House, which has new people sleeping on the second floor.
That it does. Good morning, guys. You know, attending 3 balls in one night may sound like a lot, but President Bill Clinton, he attended 14 inaugural balls. President Obama attended 10, but President Trump only 3, and that was intentional. He says that he wanted a quick celebration so that he could get straight to work this morning.
You're going to see things happening over the next few weeks. Oh, you're going to be so happy. This was a movement, and now the work begins. Now the work begins. There's no games, right? No games.
Now, Mr. Trump made those remarks at the Liberty Ball before dancing his first dance with his First Lady, and she looked stunning in a white gown that she actually helped design. As for the decor, there wasn't as much glitz and gold as one might expect from Mr. Trump. Instead, he went for a more classic Americana style with just a hint of retro glam, culminating with the song that they chose for their first dance, Frank Sinatra's My Way.
More than this, I didn't know.
Freedom Ball, which had 25,000 attendees. It was massive. The new president and his entire family danced together at the Salute Our Armed Services Ball. But the festivities aren't over yet. In a few hours, Mr. Trump will be heading to the National Cathedral for the inaugural prayer service. Then this afternoon, he's expected to make remarks at the CIA's headquarters in Langley. So just because this is a Saturday, it is still expected to be a very busy first day for the new president.
Okay.
What I also thought was great, I love the fact that he went and talked to the troops in Afghanistan yesterday from the stage. I thought that was a great moment because they're excited. They're watching what's happening here.
Sure. All right.
And they got a chance to ask him questions, and he answered them.
They did.
Awesome.
Kristen, thank you very much. By the way, we just saw earlier in the day, the talk was all about Melania wearing the Ralph Lauren jacket, double cashmere, I understand.
Stunning.
Last night, according to my sources, she was wearing something by Hervé Pierre, who worked under Carolina Herrera. How's that sound?
Yes, Carolina Herrera is a wonderful designer. We've interviewed her here on Fox and gone to her fashion shows. Her, I guess, stepdaughter, Ivanka, wears Carolina Herrera and wore one of her outfits yesterday as well.
And why? How do we know that? Was the tag out?
No, we just asked them.
Their PR company.
No, apparently Steve has sources in the fashion world.
That's right.
Oh, okay, fantastic.
My source is the Washington Post. Just saying. Meanwhile, we were all busy last night. Look, if you go to an inauguration and you're lucky enough to be able to go to one of the balls, we all went. That's my daughter, Mary Ducey, the government lawyer here in Washington, D.C. I actually got to dance with her at the Liberty Ball. There I am outside the Capitol yesterday. There I am with Kellyanne Conway. She's the one who made history in winning the first presidential campaign, and that is Congressman Steve King from the 4th District of Iowa. I was born in Iowa. We had a great conversation. He is so optimistic about where America is going under the 45th President of the United States.
Oh, that's awesome. Brian?
So Rascal Flatts lead singer Gary was there, was able to talk to us. Levox, he was there and able to talk to us and about what it meant to him to sing last night at the Veterans Ball, which has been existing since Dwight Eisenhower came up with the idea when he was president. And there's the host of and the master of ceremonies, Drew Carey himself, who served in the Marine Reserves, absolutely hysterical. He said the Marines turned around his life.
I love that. Did you read, I don't remember what publication it was, but they printed out Sean Hannity's list of songs that he wanted played at the inauguration. One was Rascal Flatts, God Bless the Broken Road. Yeah. So this is my friend Olivia. That's her husband in the background. He hunts with Don Jr.
Who are those?
And that's Sean on the right,
kind of
you know.
playlist.
And then Geraldo, we were both on Sean's show last night from 10 to midnight. So
It's like Sean doesn't even exist with Geraldo there, right?
I know.
You're like,
I'm like wrapped around. Sorry, Erica. I'm friends with his wife. I'm like wrapped around
Totally
Geraldo.
inappropriate. All right. So that's what was going on last night. Of course, the big show was at high noon at the Big Dome, just about a mile and a half behind us. If you missed it, we've got about 10% of it in this inaugural address montage. But the theme was clear. Donald Trump said a lot of things when he was running for president, and as president, he intends to keep his word.
From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first. Protection will lead to great prosperity and strength. I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down. America will start winning again. Winning like never before. We will shine for everyone to follow. We will reinforce old alliances and form new ones and unite the civilized world against radical Islamic terrorism, which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth. The Bible tells us how good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. We must speak our minds openly, debate our disagreements honestly, but always pursue solidarity. When America is united, America is totally unstoppable. There should be no fear. We are protected, and we will always be protected. We will be protected by the great men and women of our military and law enforcement. And most importantly, we will be protected by God. It's time to remember that old wisdom our soldiers will never forget, that whether we are black or brown or white, we all bleed the same red blood of patriots.
Great.
And what he wants to do, you know, he's been putting Trump first and the Trump organization first. That's what he's done in his life. And he says, I want to take that same energy. I want to do it to the American people. He's going to revisit all these trade deals. He talked about that. But rebuilding manufacturing, he's already doing that. You could say this is the most productive interim period up to the presidency in history because of what he's done with the CEOs. I thought that was the message. That's why I was so shocked to see how others interpreted the message.
Can you believe that? The mainstream media you're talking about, it was MSNBC, CNN, NBC, the list goes on, of how they interpreted his inaugural speech last night.
Dark day in America.
Right, listen to this, and then we're going to talk about it, but we want to get your comments as well. But listen.
I think it's fair to say this is one of the most radical inaugural speeches we've ever heard.
When he said today, America first, it was not just the racial, I should say racial, the Hitlerian background to it.
I have to say it was surprisingly divisive for an inaugural address. That wasn't the type of inaugural address that was intended to bring this country together.
It carries with it overtones from the 1930s when an anti-Semitic movement saying we don't want to get involved in Europe's war. It's the Jews' fault in Germany.
Wow.
Negative.
And Rachel Maddow and called it militant and dark, as I guess Steve said. The New York Times did the same thing. And here's the thing. It was tough to stand up in front of that crowd and knowing behind him is Washington, including former presidents, and saying Washington's the problem. That's what he meant to say. He's like, listen, I'm friendly with you guys here, all these presidents, but I disagree with a lot was taking place when you guys were in power.
Well, I'll tell you what, in addition to mainstream media, and legacy media attacking the new president. Online world so eviscerated Barron. 10-year-old Barron Trump. We're not going to repeat the stuff. It is completely inappropriate. All I know is if anybody said the things that they said about Barron, about the Clinton kids or about the Obama kids, you know, there would be hell to pay. But nonetheless, it was inappropriate. There is a high note, though.
There was an SNL writer that tweeted something out that quickly deleted
Absolutely.
it. Better not end up on the show.
People wanted her
below
fired.
The belt, and that is not fair. If you're going to run for office, people can go after you, but not your children.
Absolutely. You don't pick on the family. There was a good word from the Pope. The Pope sent a letter to Donald Trump saying he wished him good wishes with his new administration.
And what is there to that? Barron is precious. He's a beautiful child.
And
you don't beat up anybody's kid.
Right.
It was just great to hear the ovation for Bush 43-2 yesterday when he walked out. I think the crowd really made him, almost surprised him by the look on his face.
Jimmy Carter got the biggest ovation of the former presidents, and the biggest booing came for Chuck Schumer. Which, you know, if you listen to his speech, you were thinking, why would he, in an introduction to John Roberts, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, go so far that way? But anyway.
All he was supposed to do was introduce the Chief Justice, and he gave that long speech.
A little added bonus. Value added. Anyway, what'd you think about the speech yesterday? Let us know. Meanwhile, coming up, the so-called Inclusive Women's March on Washington today, set to start in a couple of hours. One group disinvited because they're pro-life. The founder is live with us shortly.
Plus, the president promised to return the power to the people, and that's one of the reasons Utah Congresswoman Mia Love ran for office.
Oh, Mia.
She's here to react, and we have not seen her in quite some time.
Ooh, hey, Mia, how are you? All right, but first here...
Yesterday was a historic day in America, followed by a night of celebrations as Donald Trump is officially sworn in as the 45th president. So what were some of the takeaways from the big show?
Utah Congresswoman Mia Love was there, and this is her first time at an inauguration. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. It was great.
What was your reaction about everything?
I mean, we were enthusiastic. We were just listening to the message. What a great message of patriotism. You know, as a mom, I'm always worried that my kids have to apologize for being an American. And, you know, I have to tell them all the time they live in the greatest country on earth. Don't ever apologize for that. It's worth fighting for.
Apparently you have not been reading the mainstream media newspapers because it was a dark day.
I know what I heard.
I know. You know, something else we heard being live in attendance is when Chuck Schumer and officially, you know, he was up there, and I think he was there to introduce the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
Yeah, he wasn't on.
And he got booed.
He wasn't on the program. I found that really.
What?
When he got up, he was. We looked at the program. He wasn't on the program, so I don't know what.
He went
happened.
rogue?
I don't know what happened, but we looked at the program, and he wasn't on the program.
Was everyone like, what in the world? What's he doing?
We had no idea.
So, Congresswoman, now it's going to be time for action. The ceremony's over, and I'm sure Donald Trump's president's working today. We know he's working for sure tomorrow.
Right.
What do you want to see when it comes to finance, Dodd-Frank, because that's the committee you're on.
That's the committee of jurisdiction, and our banks are dying on a vine. I mean, you're talking about centralized banks is where it's going. We have to do everything we can to repeal Dodd-Frank, give people access to credit. I mean, you're talking about buying a tractor to be able to plow your fields, getting a car to go to and from work. Yeah. You can't go to work. You can't create opportunities for yourself and get to your American dream. So we need to give as many people access to credit as possible. And the people that have been hurt the most are the poorest among us, especially in black communities. And, you know, we have to do everything we can to give people as many.
How much momentum is behind that?
Well, you've got, certainly, I know the president is interested.
He's anti-regulation.
So that is a great place. Right. I mean, that's a great place. The CFPB is absolutely horrible. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure that we give people as many opportunities as possible.
As a member of Congress, the only female black member of Congress that's a Republican, the very first one, too. Congratulations. You were sitting up there behind the podium. Mm-hmm. What was your reaction to your fellow congressmen and women that decided to boycott this?
Well, you know, there are a lot of members that decided to boycott. I have to tell you, the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, Cedric, was there. There were a couple of other people that were there. And you know, the only message I have to say is that you're a representative. That House doesn't belong to Barack Obama. It doesn't belong to Trump. It belongs to the people.
Sure.
And so you have to show up. As a representative, you show up.
And did Donald Trump call you Pardon
he
me.
did.
Donald
He
Trump
called me. It's really interesting. You know, you mentioned being the first black female Republican in Congress ever. Here's Donald Trump calling me. I never got that call from the former president.
Oh,
so,
wow.
you know, actions speak volumes to me, and I'm looking forward to what's
It's
next.
just right. So that said, I get to work now. We're going to get stuff to do.
We get to work. You know, bringing power back to the people. It's the thing that I ran on. It's the most important thing that will change the way this country works. So I'm really excited about that.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Meanwhile, straight ahead.
She has the best last name, too, right?
Absolutely.
Love. The so-called Inclusive Women's March on Washington set to start in just a few hours from now, but one group was disinvited for its pro-life stance. The founder of that group joins us live next.
How are you?
Hi.
You ready for the big show?
Welcome back from our nation's capital. Following some breaking news right now, a tornado ripping through a small town in Mississippi. William Carey University in Hattiesburg damaged in the storm's wake. First responders are now scouring the area as people reportedly are trapped under their homes. We'll follow this developing story and bring you the latest as we get it. Anti-Trump protests turning violent. A 32-year-old is in critical condition after being shot on the University of Washington's campus in Washington State. That suspect has now turned himself in. Elsewhere, thousands taking to the streets denouncing the new administration. Protests especially violent in Washington, D.C. At least 217 people put in jail, buildings vandalized, and cars torched. A suspected cop killer in critical condition this morning after trying to take his own life following a 7-hour standoff on a bridge in New Orleans. Sylvester Holt was wanted for the murder of Officer Michael Louviere and his estranged pregnant ex-wife. Those are the headlines. I'll see you in just a little bit. Let's head over to Steve, Brian, and Ainsley. Hi, guys.
Hi, thank you so much, Heather. Some 250,000 are expected to take part in a women's march on Washington. It happens this morning, but a pro-life women's group called the New Wave Feminists was uninvited to that event after being listed as a partner for today's event.
So what kind of message does that send? You're included, and then you're not included. Let's talk to Destiny Herndon De La Rosa. She is the founder and the president of New Wave Feminists. She joins us now with her reaction. First of all, what's a New Wave Feminist?
So we are pro-life, non-violent feminists. So we just believe in protecting life from the womb to the tomb.
And that makes it New Wave.
Yeah,
New Wave, well, obviously being pro-life is kind of a different take on feminism, but since women were viewed as property for a huge chunk of history, we don't think it's okay to view children as property, especially since they're the most vulnerable among us.
So why did you want to get involved in this march today?
You know, anytime women come together, exciting things happen. So we definitely wanted to be there to represent the pro-life contingent of that.
Why are you pro-life?
I'm pro-life because I became pregnant with my son at 16 years old and really had, you know, to me that was the most feminist thing I could do was choose life for him. And there were sacrifices, but I mean, I've been repaid in full. He's the most amazing human being now.
Okay, so that's why you wanted to do.
You're not going to have that opportunity because to demonstrate today?
No, I mean, we're going to be there.
Yeah,
You're still going to go.
Yeah, but what happened was, when you found out about it, you asked to be included. They made you a partner. Then they realized, wait, they're pro-life. Let's uninvite them.
I think they already knew we were pro-life, but once everyone else found out that we were included, there was backlash, and they caved to it and decided to take
How did you find out you were uninvited?
Reporters started calling me pretty much to
How
say
did
that
they
we
know?
were, because of the Twitter backlash. I think they went to the website and suddenly our name wasn't there. So a friend called me and let me know, and then immediately reporters called. To this point, the march still hasn't
Have you
contacted
gotten an explanation?
Not at all.
So, no, I think it's pretty easy. It's an inclusive march, and it's inclusive as long as you have their philosophy.
Yes, a very specific type of diversity, which does not include everyone.
What's your message to them?
The message is that, you know what, we've been getting so much support from women. When we got to the airport in Dallas yesterday to head here, we had so many women on the plane who were headed here for the same reason, and they said, you guys should absolutely be able to march. So while this has become divisive with perhaps the organizers, women agree that they want more voices. More dialogue is always better. It's always empowering.
So let me just ask you, in the big picture, why do you think it's necessary to march?
I think that we need to make sure that we are holding the Trump administration accountable. I mean, there's definitely some misogynistic rhetoric in his past, and it has no place in the White House.
So you're going to try to march today?
Oh, I will be marching.
Okay.
How old's your son?
He is 16 now.
Wow, wow, that's awesome.
It is.
I think that's a great decision as a mom myself.
Thank you.
Destiny from New Wave Feminists, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day here in our nation's capital. Meanwhile, today is the first full day of the Trump administration, so how are voters feeling this morning? Pete Hegseth, look at that. He's flipping flapjacks and making bacon at the Tasty Diner, a legendary spot in Bethesda. He's coming up next.
And many in the media in a complete meltdown after the inauguration, comparing today to the Civil War.
Struck by where the country is today, which is, to me, it's much more akin to where we were in 1861 and how divided the country is.
Really? Michelle Malkin and Dan Bongino want to weigh in on that. They're here to react. Hello. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, long time no see, both of you.
In America, we understand that a nation is only living as long as it is striving. We will no longer accept politicians who are all talk and no action, constantly complaining, but never doing anything about it. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. Do not allow anyone to tell you that it cannot be done. No challenge can match the heart and fight and spirit of America. We will not fail.
And that was a little bit of Donald Trump's speech yesterday, which many people had a problem with. Michelle Malkin, to my immediate left, very familiar to you guys, senior editor with the Conservative Review, and Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent for President Obama, who's the one guy that could have gotten through the malaise of security, and you chose to stay in last night.
I had some of my own Secret Service friends going, listen, I can let you in, but I don't know what that guy down there is going to say. I'm going right back to the hotel.
So how do you feel about the tone that you saw yesterday from the president and how it's being received?
You know, it just shows that there really are still two Americas. There's normal, everyday America that was inspired by Donald Trump, and then there's the media and Hollywood that were gnashing their teeth and pulling their chins. Dark, ominous, the headlines. I was on BBC the other day and yesterday, and you would have thought that the apocalypse had happened with these people. I don't understand what you're hearing. I heard soaring rhetoric. I heard inspiration. I heard unity.
But maybe not great news for the British, because he's talking about America first, even though they've already established a special relationship and they're going to have meetings soon.
Well, and Winston Churchill's bust is back in the White House.
That's right. That says a lot. So what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it was a populist speech. It obviously wasn't standard old-school conservatism as we've heard. But Michelle's right. I mean, the media meltdown shows this complete disconnect from them and this mainstream media bubble and the rest of America. I mean, remember just, what was it, a few months ago, someone wrote a piece, and it was the Times or the Post, where they said, maybe we made a mistake crying wolf about every single Republican being an ist or a phobe or a phobophobe or a racist. Maybe now they're doing it again. You saw that Ira at MTV, talking about Jeff Sessions' granddaughter being Asian.
Yes.
See this meltdown about Barron yesterday. It just completely discredits them and contributes to the 2020 Trump re-election effort, in my humble opinion.
Yes, interesting you'd bring that up. ABC's Matthew Dowd, he was comparing this to the Civil War. Listen to this.
Well, I think we're obviously in an unprecedented time with a lot of things that happen unexpectedly, including Election Day for most people in the country. I am struck by where the country is today, which is, to me, it's much more akin to where we were in 1861 and how divided the country is.
1861.
Yeah, we were talking about this on our CRTV live stream. We co-hosted our own little coverage yesterday, and we talked about this invocation of unprecedented, and yet these people hearken back to either the Civil War. I heard a lot of Nazi references, 1930s.
Sure. Well, he's saying that's how divided our country is, and Donald Trump he's talked about this, Dan. He has said, I'm not the one who divided it. Right. Someone else has been in office for the last 8 years.
Right. This to call this hysterics is maybe the understatement of the year. I remember specifically the 2009 Barack Obama inauguration. Conservatives gave him his day. You didn't see any of this nonsense. And even worse, 2013, I remember Al Roker. Now, granted, he's not a journalist, but people jumping out of the parade route when Joe Biden waved, literally like ready to cry in tears. And okay, enough. Like, you know, Michelle and I were talking about it yesterday. We're happy we won, but we don't do golden calf politics. Like, I'm not like, I would not, and I don't think Donald Trump would expect that. Let me genuflect and front of you. Can I kiss the ring? This is absurd. Give the guy a day. Let him do something before you start whining.
But these guys and gals are on the legacy mainstream media saying these things. And then on the left-wing Twitterverse, you saw some things. And Dan, to your point earlier, you touched on the fact that the Twitterverse got so inappropriately inappropriate with 10-year-old Barron Trump, because if people said the things about the Obama children or about Chelsea Clinton, Twitter themselves would drive to their house and take their smartphone away from them.
But here's the thing: conservatives would say, good conservatives would say too, fellas, inappropriate. You're discrediting us and our movement. Where are the liberals doing that now? It's outrageous.
Well, where's the Twitter safety filter? That's what I want to know.
Sure.
Remember, they created this whole safety council to get rid of bigotry and vile hatred.
It only works on the left.
That's right. Exactly. It's a one-sided filter.
So one thing I do, especially yesterday, is to try to flip around and see where the emphasis is. So many cameras, so much to cover, and everyone was focusing and almost expecting massive riots. Number one, who are these people, and what did they accomplish? I know 217 were arrested.
Yeah. That's right, and that's not marginal, okay? And what I want to know is, where is the single elected Democrat who condemned the destruction, the violence, the property damage, the intimidation of law-abiding people here? What is the point of setting a limousine on fire on K Street? Why aren't they doing that when those K Street lobbyists are letting ordinary people
Larry
off?
King got his windows smashed out.
Right. But, Dan, you know how it works. Yeah. At an event like this, the police officers are told, unless they punch you in the face, just pretty much let them do whatever they want to do.
No, you nailed it, Stephen. It's sad because they have to triage their efforts. It's a zero-sum game. If I send Steve Ducey as a police officer to arrest Ainsley for, God forbid, smashing a window, which he would never do, in a limo. By the way, my daughter loves your book, by the way. So if they do that now, Steve is not available to go and look out for that soft target tactical assaulter, that shooter. So it's not that they don't want to do it. It's just there's just not enough manpower.
But Dan, profile these people for me. Who are they? They seem like a bunch of 20-year-olds who aren't upset about Hillary, not
It's
upset
their
about
job.
the Russians. They're not even Democrats. What are they doing?
No, Steve's right. This is literally their job. Like, what they do is they get paid, or they're financed by, it's not a lot of money, but they go out and they are astroturfers at best. I mean, that's being generous. They get paid to go out there and get arrested. Brian, you and I, if we got arrested, it would destroy our career.
Absolutely.
Okay? They don't care. Like, for them,
want
it's
to
like a badge of honor. Look at me. I was arrested 20 times.
Dan, you're so good. You were able to give 2 sound bites and work in a book plug at the same time. Very nice.
She really enjoys the book.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, she loves it.
I don't think I can write children's books about out smashing windows, so that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tell your daughter I'm so happy.
And Michelle, you're not surprised at these, the rent-a-mob that showed up.
No, I did a piece this week called The Sponsors of Anarchy, and I really want to get back to this point of where are these elected Democrats. Come on. They hold Sarah Palin accountable for using a bullseye and blame every last random act of violence. This is what happens in Oakland. You had the mayor there, Gene Kwan, who basically tolerated and coddled the likes of Occupy Wall Street. You ask, who are these people? Some of them are 20-year-olds, but some of them are 40 and 50-year-olds who are subsidized career agitators.
We saw a 10-year-old with his parents.
That's right. Life is on
But I
fire.
want to talk about the big picture. Let's say 2 months down the line, 2 weeks down the line, a year down the line. Does the rhetoric and the anti-Trump attitude continue throughout all these outlets?
I read a book called Unhinged in 2006. That was 10 years ago.
But he's not
And I
calling any-
said, no, he's
There's
not.
another book plug.
There you go. That's right. Like retro, right? Retro flashback. No, these people, this is where they live. They are cesspool dwellers, and they like wallowing in it.
No, Michelle's right. These are people committed to liberalism. You have to understand they're not committed to a person. I remember in New York with David Dinkins, right? When David Dinkins' failures became so obvious after the Giuliani administration came in and cleaned up New York, what did they do? They didn't throw liberalism under the bus. They threw Dinkins under the bus. Their goal is to protect liberalism no matter what.
So they'll throw Hillary.
Eventually, she will be the worst candidate in American history. So, yeah, the liberal media will say it too. They have to protect liberalism.
Although yesterday, Donald Trump, at that luncheon, said, let's all stand up for Hillary and Bill Clinton.
Yes, we went over and shook her hand. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you both for being with us.
All right, very well.
Great discussion.
Coming up next, we're going to check back in with Pete at Tasty Diner, which is in Bethesda. He is chatting with the voters in between bites of his own breakfast.
Breakfast looks great. And the president already taking executive action on Obamacare. What should be next on his political agenda? Let's talk to these gals. So many people.
How are you?
Good to see you again. It's been an hour.
Good morning and welcome back to our nation's capital. Some quick headlines to bring you right now. The CIA operating without a leader as the Senate delays its confirmation vote for Representative Mike Pompeo. Dems pushing that vote until Monday over concerns with the way that he answered surveillance questions during his hearing. Former President George H.W. Bush and former First Lady Barbara Bush continuing to recover in the hospital this morning. Both are on the upswing after they were hospitalized in Houston for respiratory problems. Doctors removing a ventilator from Bush 41 before President Trump's inaugural address. The couple watching that ceremony together and glad they are doing better. I'll see you back here real soon. Steve, Brian, and Ainsley.
All right, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, 15 minutes before the top of the hour, President Donald Trump already working hard to make America great again. As cabinet members, yes, he has some. General James Mattis, now Secretary of Defense, and John Kelly, now Homeland Security Secretary, have officially been sworn in. This is executive actions are already being taken to repeal and replace Obamacare. So, what's next on the agenda?
So, here to discuss, we got a political panel on this Saturday morning. Lisa Booth is a Fox News contributor. Madison Giziotto is the regional press secretary for the Presidential Inaugural Committee. By the way, good job on yesterday.
Thank you.
Also a Washington Times columnist. And Linda Tran is a former communications director for Governor Tim Kaine, a Democratic strategist and founding partner of 270 Strategies. She's got the longest business card. All right, so Linda, let's start with you.
Sure.
One of the first things that President Trump did was an executive order essentially unwinding portions of the Affordable Care Act regulations. The Washington Post has a headline, Trump guts the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate. Is that what you think? He's gutting it at this point?
Well, I think it's a little bit unclear. I think there were a number of folks who were trying to get some more details yesterday. Obviously, we know it was the very beginning of his administration. He was signing a stack of executive orders, and this happened to be one of them. And there weren't a lot of details early on, so we'll see exactly what it means. But the administration has made very, very clear their intention is to repeal Obamacare, so we'll see.
No surprise there.
Right. So, Lisa, if he does, he says, I'm going to start easing the financial burden on Obamacare. Did something in the House. We're not quite there yet. What do you expect to be next?
Well, you know, look, I think there needs to be consensus within Republicans right now. I mean, because there just isn't at this current moment regarding Obamacare and what sort of the next steps are.
But do you want tax reform, infrastructure? What do you think tactically would be the next best thing?
Honestly, I think energy is really where this administration should go. You just look at the amount of revenue that can be brought in through even just looking at the sheer amount of federal lands that President Obama roped off for energy exploration. There's a lot of untapped potential there for both.
So unrope.
Yeah, unrope ththose federal lands. Let's permanently roll back some of those regulations. I know he did a temporary freeze on new and incoming regulations that President Obama put into place. We also have to look at what he's done over the past 8 years, and he has really limited us, prevented a lot of potential in energy exploration, a lot of money there. A lot of jobs there, and even look at the Keystone pipeline, for instance. And so these are the things that I think there's just a lot of quick action there that Donald Trump.
So we won't be dependent on other countries. Madison, what do you think? What should be next?
Sure. I mean, I think the first thing that we need to look at is the fact that he is sending a very clear message. He was elected by the American people, many of which who wanted to see Obamacare either repealed or at the very least changed. And so he's directing these federal agencies to interpret as loosely as possible Obamacare until it is potentially repealed.
Sure.
I think what we need to keep in mind is many Americans, and I'm from the Midwest, I'm from the state of Ohio, I saw businesses, I saw people that were hurt by Obamacare, and we can't continue to let this happen. We need to interpret these regulations loosely and figure out how to fix this broken healthcare system that Obama created.
So that needs to be the first thing.
I think that's one of the first things we need to do in the first 100 days.
Sure. So a lot of people are optimistic that, the things that Donald Trump promised on the campaign trail he's going to make good on. Linda, you've got to, though, as a Democrat, does your point of view reflect like some of the mainstream media where they're saying, oh, that speech, dark day in America, that's the president?
Well, yeah, I mean,
you're a very fair person. I would be shocked if you really felt that way.
I'm a fair person, but I also have ears. I feel like, a good portion of this speech, especially the beginning of it yesterday, really very much painted a pretty bleak picture of America. He was talking about essentially cities burning, factories shuttered and all these sorts of things. But here's the point. So essentially yesterday's speech, which typically is a unifying moment where you're kind of graciously saying some nice things about your opponent, something about your predecessor, and then you're talking about how you're going to represent all Americans and bring them together, was a lot more of some of the rhetoric that we heard on the campaign trail. I understand why, right? Donald Trump is who he is. He's shown time and again he's going to be consistent about that. So I understand the strategy and the framing and the position of it, but it was stark. To use the term American carnage, which I think historians and people watching around would have been totally shocked.
What's wrong with using that word, though, when you look at the statistics in Chicago?
Well, I mean, you have to look at the statistics everywhere, and I think that it's not really in line with what's happened. Again, you know, we started 8 years ago. Millions of people were losing their homes, getting things foreclosed on. The American auto industry was collapsing. You know,
Gotcha.
But see, this was the misstep of the Democratic Party, because a lot of Americans felt like the country is not where they want it. They felt like their children and grandchildren were not going to inherit. That's why a stronger nation. Exactly. Yeah. So that was the misstep.
Well, today is day one, first full day. Let's see what he does. Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, coming up, Geraldo and I, we had a ball last night after the inauguration. He is here live at the top of the hour.
And next up, Pete is live at the Tasty Diner in Bethesda talking to the folks.
We sure are. Yeah, here at the Tasty Diner having breakfast. It's fantastic. I'm here with Gene and Dale. We're going to come back after the break and talk about what their takeaway was from the Trump speech. Meanwhile, I eat bacon.